And joining us now is Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield. Sir, thanks for being here. What's happening on the ground right now? Are you seeing any troops yet?
No, not at the moment. I think what we have done is we filed a lawsuit yesterday to get in the courts and get in front of a judge as quickly as possible. Earlier this morning, we filed a temporary restraining order to pause the president's actions, really talking about why he has exceeded his authority and can't national or federalize the National Guard here in Oregon. Again, you got to remember, this is Oregon. You got to remember, this is America. We don't use the United States military in our cities. That's not something we do except under incredibly extreme circumstances.
The president has called Portland a hotbed of insurrection. He says ICE facilities there are under siege by Antifa and others who he calls domestic terrorists. To be fair, there have been protests, sometimes violent, outside Portland ICE locations. How do you respond to those specific claims and justification for sending troops?
I think we got to ground ourselves in how our president gets his facts, and he does that through social media. He doesn't do that by picking up the phone and talking to real people on the ground. If you were to look in Portland over the last couple of weeks and you were to talk to the Portland police, you'd find that there is more activity around the nightlife of Portland than there is around the ICE facility. And obviously, federalizing the National Guard doesn't improve the way we think about how the president is determining facts. So this is just a reality check for the president. You got to do your homework. You got to look at what's really going on in a city before you start trying to make these bold statements and frankly misleading the American people and starting to normalize the use of our U.S. military in American cities.
You filed your suit in advance of an actual deployment, which is different than we've seen in other places, whether it was D.C. or what we saw in Los Angeles. Why take that strategy and lay out the case for our viewers?
Yeah, listen, you have a president that has started to attack our independent judiciary. He's attacked free press, and now you've seen the normalization of the United States military in American cities. We are not a third world country. We are America. It's happened in California, D.C. He's doing it in Memphis. He's talking about it in Illinois, and we received formal orders at 9:32 yesterday morning on Sunday. And it was my instruction at the Oregon Department of Justice that I wanted to be in court within 12 hours of a formal order. And we have amazing people that work at the Oregon Department of Justice, and we did it in less than 6 hours. And so that's why it's so darn important. We have to draw a line in the sand. This is America. We have the police, the Portland Police Department, amazing police department, is doing a wonderful job in keeping communities safe. We have the Oregon State Police, we have the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, and we have an incredible district attorney in Multnomah County doing the work to keep the public safe. You don't need the U.S. military walking our streets in any country, in any city. That's not.
All right, the city of Portland, the state of Oregon, suing the Trump administration to block deployment of hundreds of National Guard troops to Portland. The president says he's doing it to protect ICE facilities. With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry. And the administration clearly thinks this is a winning issue for them as they keep on doing it and leaning in. What do the polls say?
Yeah, this is fact check time. You know, the idea, we're going to be hawkish on crime. We're going to be hawkish on immigration. It's good for us. But in fact, not necessarily. What are we talking about here? All right, Trump deploying National Guards to cities in the United States of America. Look at this. Just 42% of Americans support that idea of sending troops into cities like Portland. What about the opposition? Look at this. It's the lion's share. 58% opposed, and we're talking about 64% of independents who are opposed. So if Donald Trump thinks that potentially sending in the National Guard into cities like Portland is a winning political issue, the polling says, you are wrong, Mr. President.
The most analogous situation is what happened in Los Angeles, correct? What happened to the numbers there after the president did that then?
Yeah, we've heard this music before, right? We've heard this song before. And what happened the last time that Trump sent National Guards into a western city? Well, take a look at the change in Trump's net approval. Overall, it dropped 4 points. How about on immigration, which of course those protests were about? Look at that. It dropped by 7 points. So we have history of Donald Trump sending the National Guard into a Western city. And what happened was there were clear political ramifications for the President of the United States, and they were not good ramifications. What happened was his overall approval rating dropped by 4 points, and his immigration approval, which had been his best issue up to that point, dropped by 7 points, went from net positive territory to net negative territory.
And in this case, he says he's doing it to protect ICE facilities, which brings us to the issue of ICE in general. What are opinions on this incident?
Yeah, so let's take a look at ICE approval. All right, ICE's net popularity rating. You know, in Trump's first term, it was at 0 points. Not too great, but not too bad either. But take a look now. Look at this. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that agency, look at that. Minus 14 points. Down it goes because of their actions during the second Trump term. In fact, the Pew Research Center polled 16 different agencies. ICE's net popularity rating was 15th out of 16th. It was close to being the least popular of all. This bottom line is, John, the president may think this is a politically winning issue for him, but the numbers tell a very different story. It's, in fact, a political loser.
Interesting. All right, Harry, thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
Sarah.
All right, joining me now is Congressman Brad Schneider, Democrat of Illinois. Thank you so much for being here. You just heard that polling. Trump is sending troops to Portland. He's also just increased the ICE presence for raids in your state, and he says he will send troops to Chicago at some point, although he had promised that before sending them to Portland right after he sent troops to Washington, D.C. How do you think the state and local government should respond?
Well, I think what you've seen in Chicago, Illinois, is the way we need to address it. The governor's been very clear. ICE is not welcome to do what they're doing here. They're literally going around terrorizing our communities, tackling people, bringing them to the ground, physical violence, terrorizing communities, not keeping the community safer, but actually making people scared and frightened. And with respect to the National Guard, the governor said they're not needed here. We've all been together on this. I visited Naval Station Great Lakes with Senator Durbin and Senator Duckworth to talk to the base, making sure that their mission of training our sailors is protected and not abused by the president. The bottom line is the president's trying to provoke violence. He's trying to create a situation where he can justify the actions he wants to take. It's a totalitarian playbook that we've seen play out in other places, and it has no place.
America.
You brought up a few other cities. Your lawsuit claims the president has repeatedly attacked Democrat-led cities and states over immigration enforcement. Do you believe that's really what's behind this?
You know, I'm not sure exactly what is behind the president's motive. Clearly, he's either recklessly relying on social media gossip, or this is truly meant to, strike a political moment where he'll get some celebratory, streaming issue that he'll be able to, point his finger to and say, look, I did something. When it comes to outcomes, this is not how you improve public safety. You improve public safety by picking up the phone, talking to elected officials, talking to leaders in the community, saying, what do you need to improve public safety? And you know what? There are cities and states across this country that would love that type of a collaborative conversation with any president. But that's not what's going on right now. What he's doing is abusing a power to federalize the National Guard. And remember, the way you do that, the way you do it legally, it's very extreme circumstances. That's when we're being invaded, an invasion, a rebellion, or you cannot effectuate the laws of the United States. None of those things are happening in Oregon right now.
You've heard the president essentially try to flip this on Democrats, saying, by pushing back against his moves, you're giving a green light to criminals. We know crime has come down in Portland, but no one's calling it the safest city in America. We have some numbers here from Portland police over the past 12 months, nearly 3,000 aggravated assaults, 43 homicides, 6,300 cases of vandalism, more than 4,000 burglaries. Does Portland have a crime problem?
Every city has issues with crime. What I can tell you is that we have a police force that is doing incredible work, and our numbers are improving. We have, again, partnerships with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. We have the Oregon State Police, and we have a district attorney that are working to keep communities safe. And we are doing that, and it is improving over time. What I would really try and focus people on is we need to look at the facts on the ground, not the kind of numbers or things that you're seeing on social media, real facts. And we'd invite the president to come out to Oregon and take a look around, see what's actually going on. You're seeing a movement on social media right now in kind of this satire where regular Oregonians are posting videos about how peaceful Portland is on every day, and you're seeing politicians even do that as well. This is what we need to be talking about. This is a political exercise that the president is engaged in. It's not based in facts.
Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield, thank you very much for taking the time with us, and I hope you'll come back as we continue to cover.
What you're seeing right now is not leadership. It's Donald Trump dragging America into a crisis of his own making. He's threatening to use the U.S. military against its own citizens, not because, Portland is collapsing or anything, but because he wants to create the image of chaos and then present himself as the only one strong enough to stop it. That's political theater, not public safety. Understand the playbook here, right? Trump calls Portland a hotbed of insurrection, yet the facts on the ground show ordinary nightlife and manageable policing challenges. Local law enforcement has made it clear that they're perfectly capable of handling anything that comes up. But Trump doesn't care what police chiefs or district attorneys or mayors or anyone says. He cares about headlines, optics, and the power of fear. He's weaponizing the label of domestic terrorism to justify deploying troops against Americans. That's basically what that is. And consider the precedent that this sets. If a president can federalize the National Guard every time he wants to score political points and demonize and scare his enemies, then no city is safe from becoming a stage for his next stunt. Today it's Portland. Tomorrow it could be Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles, or Philadelphia, or any other big city, and then he'll work his way through. And the numbers don't lie. Polling shows that a majority of Americans, including independents, oppose sending the National Guard into U.S. cities. When Trump tried it before in Los Angeles, his approval ratings dropped. On immigration, which he believes is his strongest issue, his standing collapsed by 7 points. Voters know the difference between actually protecting communities and provoking conflict for no reason. Trump's gamble is a losing one in the long term, but he's also willing to take the country down with him. Just pay attention to his strategy. He's already attacked the judiciary, smeared the press, and now seeks to normalize military occupation of American neighborhoods. That's not strength, that's desperation at this point. A president who truly cared about crime would, pick up the phone, talk to governors, ask local leaders what resources they need, how can I help? Instead, Trump relies on social media gossip and conspiracy theories, then uses them to justify executive overreach. This is not normal. You should be alarmed. This is not a president acting out of necessity, he's saving people. This is a president manufacturing an entire crisis to expand his control militarily. History shows us where this leads. Once soldiers are on the streets of American cities, the line between democracy and authoritarianism begins to blur a little too much. Trump is crossing that line, if he hasn't already a long time ago, and he's doing it willingly. The question is whether the country will stop him before it becomes the new normal.